Welcome to Dream Farm. It's about 10 days since I burned this hillside, and I wanted to come back through here and just see which species of plants, shrubs, bushes were most impacted by the fire. And I was hoping for the removal, eradication of some of the ones that really aren't useful to me. And multiflora rose is one, Japanese barberry, prickly ash, and those are the main negatives here. There's some gooseberry too, so we'll see what effect it had on that. But I'm standing next to a multiflora rose bush, and I'm taking these little leaves out on the end of these branches, and they're crumbling, so they're dry and dead. So I don't know, looking at the rest of the bush, it looks like the leaves on here are pretty much dried up, like they're not getting any more moisture. So that's good. So whether that actually killed this plant or not, I don't know. I'll do another update here in a couple of months, and we'll talk more about not only what actually died, but what grew back in its place. But if you look at the base here of this bush, you'll see that the fire just crept through here. This was one of the back burn areas, I think, was it? Doesn't matter. It was burning slow here, I do know that. And you can see that it scorched the base of the stems of this multiflora rose. So we'll keep walking along here and checking. Supposedly fire will take out the Japanese barberry too, and we got a bunch of it here. That was one of the main priorities of this burn, was to kind of wipe out some of the junk, so that as I do TSI, then the stuff that comes in and fills those openings are more desirable. Dream Farm is brought to you by Whitetail Institute Food Plot Blends, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail App, Hoyt Archery, Wildlife Farming, and PH Outdoors. So I'm next to some of the Japanese barberry here that did get the base of the plant burned as the fire went up through here. I can't tell for sure what the status is. I think I would probably have to go in there and snap the plant off. So maybe I'll do that next and grab one and snap it and see if it's brittle, because I can't tell by looking at it, because the leaves are green, but they might have been green before. Maybe it's sucking up whatever moisture was left in the trunk or the stem before it was destroyed. So let me do that. Let me grab one and snap it. No, I tried to snap it off, and it's just still pliable. It's not the least bit brittle, so I'll find some more spots, but that was discouraging. I was hoping that Japanese barberry at least was going to die. This area right here, all along the trail on this side, is just loaded up with that Japanese barberry. And again, like I was saying, this was one of my main priorities for burning this area, because I don't want that invasive, to get a good head start, because once it gets going, it's going to be harder and harder to kill. And then if I open this up with TSI next spring, then it's going to go, explode even more. So ideally, this did the job, and we'll come back and look at it again in about a month or so just to make sure. But as I look up this stretch, it appears as if most of it is either really stressed or appears to be dead. I'm standing next to a Japanese barberry plant on the other side of the lane that was unaffected by the fire. And you can see a lot of leaves popping out on this one. And as I look at the ones on the other side, most of them don't have any kind of new growth on them. So again, that's a good indication that we did some serious damage to the ones that went through the fire. There's a spot here where it was obviously really hot, and I know when I was burning, I paid attention to some of these places where there was a lot of leaves stockpiled on the side of this lane, and the fire just backed real slow down through those leaves. Well, you can see that here. There's not much that survived this. The biggest problem you've got when you get into an area with mostly the invasives or the little shrubs or whatever you're trying to kill, you don't have a lot of trees, so you don't have a lot of leaves, and therefore it's really hard to carry the fire through. And if you do, it's going to be real spotty, and it's not going to be very hot. So it's kind of a catch-22. The areas that are the thickest that you want to get the most control out of are the ones that have the least amount of fuel, to get those plants scorched. But this spot, you'll see it from here for a long ways up this lane. There was lots of leaves, and the fire just backed down through there and just scorched everything. The only plant that seems to have survived in this hotter burn area is the gooseberry. And I did see some raspberry plants further down that seemed like they hung in there too, but this thing, unless somehow the fire went around it, we'll keep looking. but there's a lot of green in some of these areas, and I think it's just gooseberry. So they must be fairly well adapted to the fire, where, you know, some of these other plants, you know, it just smokes them when that flame gets on the stem. I'm in a spot right here where the fire really cleared out the underbrush. It was super hot here, lots of leaves, kind of like in a little bowl. And I remember when I lit this, it was like, you know, a 10-foot tall wall of flame just ripping up through here. Well, in a perfect world, I'd be cutting down, or would have the time, you know, in the schedule or in the growing season, to cut down some more of this non-desirable tree so that the sunlight would get to the ground here, because this is it's perfect for producing a whole, you know, fresh batch of regrowth. There's some canopy, not too bad, so maybe it'll do a good job on its own, but like I said, in the perfect world, now we would have, you know, the TSI and really dump a bunch of sunlight in. I'm looking at some of these small trees now as we go through here. And again, this was one of the hotter areas as the fire was backing its way down through here with lots of leaves. And we're not going to know probably for a while, but this one's got the feel of being pretty badly stressed. I mean, the little branches that should feel soft and supple are snapping. So I'll bet you that tree, if it's not dead, it's at least what they call top killed. And I'm not very good at identifying the various species of trees when they're really small. So I can't tell you what this is, but if I had to guess, I'll bet you we come back in a month or two when everything else is starting to really grow and kick in, that tree is going to be done for. So let's look at a few more as we go up through here. But you know, I was warned of that by the biologists that I, you know, talked with about the burn. They said that even the trees that are adapted to the fire, like the oaks, the smaller ones will top kill, but the root system will still, you know, hold all of its energy, and then, you know, after the fire's gone through and the top has died off, then it'll kick up another shoot and have, you know, just jump right past where it was before, because all that energy is still stored in the root system. But it's just something to understand too, you know, like what species of trees could potentially top kill or die, because that's part of managing the fire process also. This is one of the prickly ash trees, and on some spots on the farm there's a bunch of this. And the biologist that I talked with did say that the fire will kill, or at least top kill, the smaller stuff and maybe set it back enough that, you know, it removes it. But the bigger stuff, like this one, the only way you're going to get rid of it is, you know, some herbicide or, you know, mechanical method of removing the tree physically, pulling it out by its roots, or cutting it off, or, you know, in some way, then, you know, treating it with herbicide. So we'll see. We'll get up in here, I'm sure, in some spots, you know, on the next update, and I'll find some patches where there was some of the smaller prickly ash, and we'll see if the fire did actually kill that. The last spot on this after burn tour is the open grassy area on top of the hill. And I didn't really intend to burn all of this, but it jumped my fire break and I was able to catch it before it got into this cornfield on top. But it did burn through an area with a bunch of little birch trees coming up. There was quite a few small oak trees coming in here too. So this will be an interesting one to come back and check in a couple months too, just to see what effect that fire coming through the grass had on these smaller trees. Because it would have burned through there fairly fast. It wouldn't have been like a backing fire going slowly. It would have been, you know, wind at its back, going uphill, fire pushing through fairly quickly. So this will be the final one that we come back and look at when we, you know, do another update. But I thought I would just go around and look at all these spots, because I was super curious myself. So I figured that you guys would probably be interested too, just to see what effect this fire had, at least in the short term. And we'll know more, like I said, in a couple months or a month or so, and I'll do another update then. Well, I appreciate you joining me. We'll see you right back here soon for the next episode of Dream Farm. And remember to always dream big.